So I think it's time for the little forest talk. What I've been thinking about recently. And what I've been thinking about recently is the white goddess. The white goddess. The white goddess. Matriarchal society. And the patriarchal society. And for, I don't know, was it about 80,000 years? I think the matriarchal society was going strong. Up until men used to believe, or people used to believe, that women were fertilised from being near rivers or from the wind. But then some bright spark realised that women were fertilised from men. And then, that must have been about 6,000 years ago. And then the men suddenly thought, oh, we're somebodies now. And started taking a leading role. So for the last, let's say 5,000, 4,000 years, it's been more directed towards patriarchal, to men being the bosses. Whereas before it was always the women were the bosses, and they all worshipped the fertility goddess, Willingsdorf fertility goddesses. I'm just thinking about, I always think that societies that are run on a very strong patriarchal way end up destroying themselves because there's too much negative energy, too much testosterone. And I think about British Empire spreading all over the world, Queen Victoria at the head, or even Britain today with Queen Elizabeth. And just think about countries who've had women as leaders, Gandhi, Indira Gandhi in India. And you always find that the places that have had women in charge, it's always been a time of civilization. But when the men get in charge too much, then it just turns to times of war. And we see that with this Islam thing, you know, for the Islamists, whatever they call them, I don't know what they call them, give a friggin' toss about it anymore, but for them it's all man, and the woman is just dirt. And you see what happens with these people, because they're so out of harmony, out of balance. If you think about yin and yang, the male and the female, and the male force is much too strong and the female force is too weak, and so then you just get shit happening, like people constantly warring with each other. And even think about it as a gardener, it's like you know, my little goddess I've got in my garden, I'll just give her a new toga for the spring. And us men, yeah, I say, I'm talking about male gardeners, we've got our dibbers in our hands, and we go out and stick our dibbers in the earth and put in some seeds and wait for the plants to grow. But what have we actually done? We haven't done much, have we? All you've done is put a seed in the dirt, and the earth goddess does the rest in conjunction with the sun. They're doing all the work, they're making the plant grow, we just put in the seed. And so I think sometimes our part is really overvalued in a way. We should give more respect to the goddess. It's like with a man, yeah, if he goes to a woman, has his fun, gets her pregnant, and then just disappears. Then the woman's left to sit with the child in her belly for 9 months, and then when the child's born, she's got to look after it, because they're doing the real work, whereas the men are just, they planting the seeds and then walking off. And this lack of responsibility is an aspect of this male force. I'm sure in all these countries where there's big wars and that lot, all the women are trying to keep the village life together while the men are off having the little wars and playing the games. And I think that's what's got right out of sync at the moment, is the man force is too strong. It needs more feminine force to equal things out, to balance things out. And the goddess, yeah, I'll tell you why I'm into this so much at the moment, is because I've been reading a lot of Robert Graves stuff, and his book's called The White Goddess, and he talks about old myths and things that have been going on in Greece and all this sort of stuff. And sometimes I think we should possibly hark back a bit to give the women some more power back to balance things out. Because I'm sure that the White Goddess was sitting there, and when men found out it was their seed that impregnated the women and not the wind or the rivers that did it, and the goddess was probably laughing, saying, yeah, you believe that, and go ahead boys, play with your toys and see what happens. And the goddess has got all the time in the world, because what the sad thing is probably is that when the men get in charge for too long, they'll end up just destroying everything. Everything will be destroyed. And then but the women will still be hiding away somewhere in the caves and stuff, and they will come back again and carry on with the work that they've got to do, which is nurturing the future of mankind. And it's a sad thing, really, it's like, it's a bit worrying, really, especially with all this rise of Islam and this attitude they have to women. Because basically a woman, the goddess, has got power over the man. A woman has got power over a man, and a man it makes him feel weak, it makes him feel second class, because if a woman comes along, that's the whole thing about putting women in burqas and putting bags over their heads, because the power of the women is too strong for the men. Overpower the man's mind, and that's the crux of the biscuit in a way. And people being scared of that power of the women. But if the two forces could be harmoniously working together, then it could be another golden age. But when things get too out of balance, when things get too far to the yin or too far to the yang, yin or the yang, and all trouble comes from disharmony, and that's what we've got in the world today. We've got too much disharmony. I'm talking about before, when I just said about men impregnating women and then just walking off and leaving the woman to do all the bringing up the babies, and the guy just walks off to find the next woman. That reminds me a lot of capitalism too. Imagine it's in the Victorian times or anywhere really. In the forests of Brazil, men go in, build a big factory to extract gold or to make sugar cane, and you find the whole landscape will be ruined. Pollution, and when the money's been made, they just walk away from it and leave all the ground polluted or disgusting old factories everywhere and don't clear it away. And that's that same mentality of the man who just rapes the woman and then walks off and leaves her to do it. And till we get some more harmony going, then we're just gonna have problems all the time. I think personally that women would be better in charge, honestly do, and just leave men to do the rough work, you know, like collecting wood and hunting the animals, but let the women they don't have to be in charge, an equal footing. Yeah, so I didn't want to rant against Islam, but I just wanted to put the case of the goddess there and think of it in that aspect, and then we won't be coming up to getting charges of racism or anything, even though Islam's not a race, but if you know what I mean. I think it's more of a male-female thing, which has to be sorted out eventually, but it will probably have to run to its foregone conclusion and be a lot of destruction. It's the way it's got to go, I think. And this, all this thing with the refugees and people being let in, it reminds me of what's his name, with his finger in the dike, and those Westerners, we've had our fun and plundered the world and made loads of money out of it, and it's quite shocking if you think really that probably 80% of the people on the planet are totally poor and got nothing, ain't got a pot to piss in, and with globalisation, they've all got handies now, they've all got iPhones, or they've got access to what it's like in the West more, and they want a piece of the action, and who can blame them? And I think I've said this before, you know, it's going to just lead to the equivalent of a gated community. South Africa, the white people there are all living behind big gates with security. All over Africa it's like that. The rich people live behind big gates. In America you've got the big wall between Mexico and America, keeping the poor people out, and the rich ones are behind that wall. But eventually the tide will keep rising, and you know it's going to get nasty. The walls will get bigger, there'll be 20-metre walls with security wire on top, electric fences, computer operated guns. That's the way it's going, isn't it, really? That's where it ultimately leads to. It's going to be Fortress Europe, Fortress America, and they'll all be sitting with the guns and stopping these millions and millions of mostly young, poor people who want a piece of the money from Europe. So, you know, it's not looking good, and you can't stop that tide. There's no way you can stop it. Nothing is permanent, everything's changed, but you know, we don't want to give up our nice lifestyle, do we? Hello. Talking to the wife about all this last night, and she says, Gary, you're a pessimist. And maybe she's right, but sometimes I wonder if I am a pessimist or whether I just haven't got my head in the sand, because a lot of this stuff is going to be happening when I'm gone. But I think about my kids, you know, what's the world going to be like for them in 20, 30 years, and doesn't seem good in a way, not good at all. But what can you do? C'est la vie.